So we're gonna go live, but it is what it is. Which I don't, Usually, like I said, if I end up doing any working to this, I'll cut all this fluff out. But we'll see how it goes. Like I said, if I end up doing any
Yeah.
all right.
You're live? Yeah, it says you're live.
Yeah, we're live. We're live now. So,
Yeah, I'm
we
in
have
the
one
chat.
viewer already.
Yeah, that's me. I got the notification. Like, all right, well, we're live.
Let me go ahead and I guess everybody wants to. Anyway, all right, let's get this started. So we'll do this proper. Welcome everybody to this TCAA special preseason show. Hopefully, whoever's watching live, how you all doing this evening, or early, late evening for some of us on the East Coast, as it's already approaching 11 o'clock. Hope you enjoy the show, and let me introduce you to who we got today. So we have two members of the coaches poll. We have representing the Big Six, the South Texas Raiders. We got Brandon. How's it going, Brandon?
Doing good. Excited for this season. First year in the league. Lot to do.
All right, and then representing the SEC, we got Doc Watson. We got Robert Brock. How's it going?
Going good. Going good. Ready to get the season started. Ready to talk about the rankings of the teams going into the season.
All right, I agree. So if anybody who is listening or watching live, if you want to send us a message on the Band app, go right ahead. If you're in the Hangouts chat, I don't know if you send us a question through the YouTube part of it all, if I'll see it, but text us, message us if you have any questions. We'll get this thing going. So before we do preseason predictions, let's just go ahead and start naming some of these rankings. As you guys have seen, you can see the rankings of how our coaches poll went. So I'm going to try and do this a different way so I can see it differently instead of looking at it that way. But forget it. We'll just look at it this way. So should we start with the bottom of the rankings, or should we go to start from the top? What do you guys think?
I think we should work our way from the bottom up.
All right, so we're going to go Drake style on this bad boy. We can do that.
Yes, sir.
After all is said and done, I guess we should say who is on our committee while we're in this. Oh, no, don't do that. Did someone just mess with the rankings? They did.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, whoever did that. Yeah, back that back out. If you just tried to rank that on the sheet, because it then messes up everything.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, what? All right.
Yeah. Brock.
We'll just have to go one by one. Cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
It'll help us elaborate on each team too.
Right.
But yeah, let's tell everybody who else is in the coaches poll committee.
As Brock. Crud. I lost it. That's what happens when you do things live. You're just not prepared. Anywho, so as you already heard, we already have Brandon, South Texas Raiders, and we also have Brock, Doc Watson in our poll group. We have the Greenville Green Devils, Ryan, once again, being in the poll group as well. He unable to make it on the show because he is currently on his way home from work. We have Tyler from Nova, Southeastern Sharks of the Big East, being in it again this year. And we have a couple of other new members of the coaches poll this year. We have Luke from Delta Phi Gamma out of the ACC. And we also have Dynasty out of the Big Six. So I think this is the first time having every conference represented, which is nice. It's always nice to have that. So we got two from the one from the ACC, two from the Big Six, one from the Big East, one from the Pac-6, and then one from the SEC. So should be a good time. I like having new people in the coaches poll. I think it brings a different atmosphere, and also lets you guys just kind of get a feel for the league and participate in a different way than anyone's really used to when it comes to college football, or not college football, but fantasy football, since it's got a college atmosphere. So let's go ahead and get this shindig going. So the 30th team ranked by this coaches was the South Harmon Institute of Technology, otherwise known as SHIT. I like whoever just clicked that one there. I like that. Helps the person out. Number 29 on that list is the South Texas Raiders.
Yours truly.
Yours truly. And do you have any comments on what do you want to say to everybody, all these coaches who are doing you wrong right now?
Well, first off, they're not doing me wrong because I think my roster is very poor. But I feel like despite there being such a big hole left on my roster, I feel like I have so many open scholarships that this could be a big recruiting year for me, and I could be competing. Even this year, I could have a chance to compete. And I mean, we'll get more into it when we start breaking down like conference by conference. But I think the Big Six has a very wide open this year.
I'll get into that later on as we were talking off air, kind of how we were all thinking about that going as well. So, all right, next on the list, number 20. Get off my page here, please, so I can read again. Number 28 is out of the Pac-6, the big USC Trojans fan. I would say, they were kind of a surprise team last year a little. They ranked pretty well last year at the end of the season, got some surprise wins, but, 28 sounds about right, honestly, unfortunately, for big USC there. Anybody have any questions? Anything with big USC? Any input?
No, not really. In my poll, I had him at 24, but with me, there's kind of a group that I think we're going to get into right now, of just teams that you could really put in any order, and I wouldn't be particularly upset with. But yeah.
I think I had him pretty close to that. I had him 25th, so a little bit higher than where they ended up, but still not too far off.
All right. Next, number 27 is a newcomer, Philly U, taking over Wild Man U just recently, just a couple weeks ago, took them over. So it's great to have new blood into the league, and hopefully in the Pac-6, where if we had Ryan on this thing right now, he would tell you that, I guess really either Ryan, but Greenville Ryan, that he would tell you, even Lanthieves Ryan, honestly, that the Pac-6 is the strongest conference in the league. Technically, Lanthieves has won 3 conference titles out of the 4 years. They won the second year. He's been in all 4 finals, 3 of the 4 finals also. He was in the first final of the year, lost that, then won the second year, wasn't in it the third year, and then won last year. So Lanthieves has kind of always been at the top of the game, and I have a feeling you may hear us talk about Lanthieves later on near the top. So no spoilers there, or no shocks, honestly. Anybody have anything for Philly U besides just welcome into the league?
Yeah, like you said, I think the Pac-12, I think it's very competitive, but I think it's also very top heavy. The Pac-6, I mean not 12, but I think we'll get into where we have those top teams later on. But I feel like even though there's kind of the other 3 teams that maybe not as well roster wise, I feel like they still just have a great shot because it's fantasy football. Anything can happen on any week. And again, just because their conference is tough doesn't mean they can't win their other 7 non-conference games and make a big impact on the bowl season.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the roster, they're very offensive heavy. Some room to grow on defense, but
yeah,
I had them ranked a little bit higher than what the coaches poll came out with, just because, I mean, they do have pretty strong offense, and they've got enough to field a starting defense that doesn't look too terrible. So I had them ranked a little bit higher because I think they may be able to maybe surprise a couple teams.
Yeah, I think looking at the roster, there are a lot of players who right now we're kind of not so sure what they could be, but they also have the chance to just blow up. That's why I believe I ranked them 21 in my poll. So I mean, I had them high too because I like a lot of their players on the roster, and there's a lot of upside on this roster. So again, even in a tough Pac-6 division, they could really make some noise.
Yeah, that's why I put them dead last in the coaches poll. But you guys said everything that needed to be said, so good job. next 26. Redbeard Conquers, new team as well this year, taking over Gondor U. They're in the Big East. I had them ranked pretty low as well, just because their roster to me didn't stand out really at all. So if you guys have anything at all about Redbeard, I don't really want to talk too bad about my own conference because I think I'm going to beat everybody. So I'm kind of smug like that. So
I mean, considering Redbeard is my week 1 opponent, I think the roster is absolutely terrible. But no, they have nice quarterback depth. I mean, Cam Newton's a very top tier talent at that position, I believe at least. And Baker Mayfield has the potential, and maybe if Jameis gets his head on straight, he has the potential to be elite as well. They have a nice 1-2 punch at running back with Elliott and Kamara, which to me that, especially having them both, Elliott a junior and Kamara a redshirted freshman, so they're both going to be able to be on his team at least for the next season and be very well producers. Their wide receiver core does leave a lot to be desired, though, with Marvin Jones really kind of the only proven receiver, unless you count Kelvin Benjamin. But all in all, I'm a fan of this roster. I really like their defensive depth, and they have a lot of standout defensive talent. I think Keanu Neal is one of the best safeties in the league. Same with Bobby Wagner as one of the best linebackers in the league. And at those two defensive positions, that's where you can put up a lot of points. Not to mention they have Rob Gronkowski. So, I mean, there's a lot of big play potential for this team, especially some of those young guys in that receiving core hits. That's why I put them, I believe, 19 in my pool. Yeah, 19. I was high on this team, and I hate to say it because I had to go against them week 1.
Yeah, I had them 22nd in my poll, but also one of my predictions, I put in most improved, and that they're my pick for the most improved team this year because I feel like they are they didn't finish the year very well. They are starting out ranked a little bit low, but I think they have a pretty well-rounded team and definitely have the makings to make some noise in that conference.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get into that. I don't believe I sent my predictions, but I have a good idea of who I want to go with. But yeah, we'll get into that later. So yeah, Redbeard.
Oh yeah,
very very sneaky team, but hopefully they start the year off with a loss.
good for you, right?
Nope.
All right, let's see here. Next, number 25 is the Volunteers. And the SEC, I'm sure Brock's got a lot to say about the Vols. Real life, just yesterday.
We're losing you again.
Days ago.
Yeah, we're losing you right now. But
so
for the Vols,
what are you gonna do?
She,
Get
yeah, Vols.
I love to make fun of the Vols.
Yeah.
And it kind of works out real well when they are ranked. Kind of makes you really talk. Volunteer time. So, anything?
All right. Real quick, you were cutting out, but for the Vols, they come in at 25, which I think is a fair ranking for them. I was not high on them. I believe I pat them at dead even at 25 as well. The roster just leaves a lot to be desired in my eyes, at least. I can go into the roster right now and check exactly, but I don't know. To me, it's just a lot to desire, and I mean, you can go ahead and elaborate since you're in the SEC. Kind of what you think about them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. I actually had them ranked 26th in my poll, so just a hair lower than where they came out at. But yeah, there's not, looking at running backs, looking at wide receivers, there's not anybody that, I mean, got some mediocre talent there. I mean, you got Julio.
Yeah, and I'm a big Demarius fan this year, but I've been an anti-Sammy Watkins guy, so that kind of maybe kind of had something to do with it. And I mean, his running back groups, there's a lot of question marks. Like, is Joe Mixon really good, or was it just a poor rookie season?
Yeah.
I mean, the McKinnon was already a question mark, and it's an unfortunate blow that he just lost him for the season. I mean, Jordan Howard, there's rumors that he's been able to catch the football, and I mean that he can catch now. So we'll see what happens there. And I mean, Deion Lewis is now there with Derrick Henry, so that could be a sketchy situation. So that running back room is just very questionable to me. I think only Jordan Howard he can depend on at least the first few weeks until we see kind of what happens with those other guys.
And then two, I mean, they've got two quarterbacks, Mariota, who has got bit by the injury bug a couple of times. Then you got Kirk Cousins at a new team, so
yeah,
a lot to really,
yeah.
we don't know yet. So
yeah, like I like Mariota as a potential bounce back, and I mean I haven't been high on Cousins, but I just think when there's only 6 teams, like if you don't really have an elite option, you're kind of a step behind a quarterback. And I think Mariota maybe could. You could argue Cousins was kind of in that elite group of QBs fantasy wise, but I just think he takes a step down in Minnesota just with that great defense and just kind of game scripts.
yeah.
So
I like it. You guys are bringing everything. I love it. Love this. Go ahead and do this all day. Oh, we got people messaging me up a storm here. We'll get to that later. All right. Next on there is number 24 is Ranju, another new team into the league, taking over, a team that was ranked this low all of last year, if not, I think almost was ranked 29th out of last year, just almost basically due to non-participation. But taking over a struggling team, has a couple of good pieces, but, not too much really for me to talk about with Ranju. We have so much more to talk about, so.
yeah, all I'll say is real quick, like you said, I mean, it's just a team that looked like didn't as kind of like when we didn't have an active owner last year, and I mean they got some work to do. I mean I've had them 20, so I was very down on them. I had them 28 in my poll, but again we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's all I got to say for Randy.
I mean, he's got the standout like Bortles, starting quarterback.
That is very true.
Alrighty.
Wilson was the leading quarterback for points last year, so I mean he does have Wilson. I think I had him ranked right at 24th. So yeah.
Yeah, I have my different rankings up now, so I can basically tell how everybody ranked everybody. But there's no reason to pour salt on the wound of being ranked 24th, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the running backs and the receivers are a little bit stronger than the other teams, but obviously, the defense is garbage.
Yeah. As of now, they don't even have a defensive tackle, and they don't have backups really at any position.
Right.
So, yeah, it'll be a struggle, but I don't know. This team could again with the wide receiver duo of Brown and Hopkins. This team could easily turn it around.
Yeah.
All right. So now that I have different rankings, I can actually do this in a quicker ranking fashion. So we'll kind of blow through some of these lower tiered ones, and unless you guys got anything to say, you want to comment, we can do that as well. Rounding out the rest of the top 20, 20 is the Arcanum U out of the Big East. 21 is No Sankey. 22 is University of Thugonomics, and I'll tell you right now, it's the last time you'll see me this low. I take this as personal vendetta for ranking me so low.
Well, that's because you're not playing me week 1 this year.
You're dang right, and that's on purpose. So, I mean, I got you like in week 6 or something, so it's not any better, really.
Well, then I can knock you down a peg then.
Yeah. I should have probably kept you first. That way I can lose then and not, and succeed like I did last year. And then we face each other in the toilet bowl again.
Yeah.
And then ranked 23rd is newcomer Team Dynamite, which just picked up an unbelievable walk-on earlier during the walk-on period. So might change the way maybe some of us will look at them later on with that addition in the tight end area. But, we'll talk about predictions and stuff like that later. But do you guys have anything at all about the rest of this rounded out top 20?
Real quick, where's it at?
Yeah, Arcanum, No Sankey, the Thugs, and Dynamite.
Oh, No Sankey. This is says Quack is 21. Quack Attack. on the coaching board. But I mean, the Ukrainian U I had ranked kind of high compared to where they ended up being. I had them ranked 16. I just something about that roster just kind of made me think like I don't know. And again, like I said, the Big East is to me it's kind of everybody's just kind of grouped together. Like we'll talk more about it, but I just think that with the way their conference is and some of the players on the roster, I think they have a good shot at being one of the sneakier teams in this season. And as for Thugonomics, I had him rated a little lower. I had him rated 26. Sorry. Ooh.
Yeah.
I actually
It's going to cost you some recruiting points later.
I had Thugonomics ranked 15th. I just know that last year was definitely an off year and year of not that Thugonomics didn't have quality players. It was just a matter of coaching. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I was definitely not head coach of the year of the Big East, I'll tell you that right now.
But the did well to end the year in the conference, won, the toilet bowl, but still won a bowl.
A bowl win's a bowl win.
Yep. So I had them ranked higher. So I'm a little surprised to see them that low, and I do, like David already, has a personal vendetta, but I don't expect him to stay there very long.
No, I don't see myself staying that low either, but, keep it coming. Just add fuel to the fire. I mean, if I start 0-6 again, I really deserve it. So my first goal is to not go 0-6. So
that would be a very good goal. All right.
That's an improvement of last year. So, all right. So I'm not sure how on my end I got Quack Attack on this other thing showing 17, but you got it, and on that one is 21. So I'll have to look into that and figure out what's going on there. But we'll drop down the next 5 here. Ranked number 15 is MC State College. At least this is how I'm looking at it on this other form I have. I'll have to look to see if you guys have it differently on the other sheet. 16 is the Nova Southeastern Sharks. 17 is where I'm showing Quack Attack. 18 is I'm Kind of a Big Deal. And 19 is University of Ron Swanson Carnivores, which did pick up a couple of these. Did pick up a couple of top 10 votes. Ron Swanson had one top 10 vote. Big Deal had one top 10 vote. Quack Attack had a top 5 vote. Yeah, Nova had a one top 10 vote. MC State had one top 10 vote. So yeah, Quack Attack had a nice one in there.
Yeah,
so I guess.
And looking at my rankings, there's of those 5 teams, I had 3 of those teams I had kind of in that next tier. I was the one who put Nova at number 6. I think again, when we talk about who we think will win each conference, I think they're the leaders in the Big East right now. I think it's their division, their conference as of now. We'll see. MC State, I had at 11. I just really like they're behind a couple of teams in that ACC conference, but I'm a big fan of the roster. And then I had Quack Attack at 12, but the other 2 teams kind of right in that range where I expected them to be.
Sorry,
you got anything?
I was looking at the other sheet.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing.
I mean, like I said, I'm a big. I think the Nova Sharks. I think I was looking at it, and it was between Nova and Balsa Hard University, who I'm pretty sure is going to be coming up here, who were kind of jockeying for that top ACC and and that top Big East spot in my coach's poll at least. Those are kind of the 2 teams I think have the first shot to kind of solidify themselves as the leaders in that conference. But again, I think everybody else in that conference is really close behind.
So we'll go ahead and start hitting up some of the. Let's see here. We'll finish off. Before we hit the top 10, we'll go with number 11 here is Ball So Hard University. We got number 12 ranked as Doc Watson with the rest of the medicine shop, whatever else you got in there. In your crazy name. 13, Tedzilla. 14, Vestal Tech Community College, Rabbit and Wenches. So, or Wrench. Why do I have wrenches? I'm pretty sure it's wenches. Anywho.
It is.
Yeah, I threw an extra letter into there. going over some of their rankings. Ball So Hard had.
Who's number 15, real quick?
I got 15, MC State College. My bad. MC State College, number 15.
Yeah, okay.
Ball So Hard had 2 top 10 votes, including 1 as a top 3. Doc Watson had 2 top 10 votes. Tedzilla had 3 top 10 votes. Vestal had 2 top 10 votes, including a top 3. I think we said MC State had the 1 top 10 vote. But yeah, this is, we're getting to the nitty gritty here, where it could have been difficult to try and rank some of these teams. Obviously, you could see where some were getting some top 10s, getting some love, and then some weren't. So, Ball So Hard University, I think definitely we'll get into them. They have a chance to be a breakout this year.
Yeah.
Really, all of them. I mean, Tedzilla is always near the top. They're always fighting in the ACC. I just don't know when they'll have a down year. Doc Watson will always fight in the SEC. Vestal always fight in the SEC. So, we're getting to the point on some of these schools where they're always fighting and they're always jockeying in this top 15, top 10 realm.
Yeah, and I guess this might be because, again, this is my first year, so I kind of base this off the eye test and kind of what these teams did last year. So for me, Tedzilla, I had them ranked 20th. Like, I'm probably the one who kept them out of the top 10, if we're being honest. The roster just didn't appeal and didn't look like a top roster to me. I think that's maybe why I had them so low. I had Ball So Hard at 13, Vessel at 14, so kind of right there. And I was one of the people who put Doc Watson in the top 10. You're welcome. I put you number 8 on my poll. You came in at number 8. I think there's one other team in the SEC, but I think you have a strong shot at competing for that conference championship this year. Maybe even making that conference championship game.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I had. I also had Tedzilla at 13th, so not in the top 10. Vestal I had at 20th, so yeah, I definitely pulled them down. Ball So Hard I had 9th. Obviously, I didn't rank myself, and didn't really put a whole lot of thought into where I would put myself. So little surprised that I ended up 12th. Figured I'd be ranked a little bit lower with 5 wins last year, losing the toilet bowl at the end of the year. I had a decently strong team, and think we did some good things to kind of retool and have a good solid team this year. Because there was a couple times that my roster got thin because of injury, so made a commitment to make sure that didn't happen this year.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the reason why I put you so high is just looking at your roster. It's just you have at least one star at every position. I mean, the one position that's really the only position that's scary is your wide receiver core, which is led by the aging Larry Fitzgerald, who, I mean, in my eyes, as long as the guy is playing, he's a top 12 fantasy receiver. Tyreek Hill, who's a big play guy, but after that, I mean, Chris Hogan, I know people are pegging for a breakout year, and I mean, Cooper Kupp is safe, but there's not really much upside in the group. Allen Hurns, I think, and Terrence Williams and Dallas, I don't want a chance on any of those receivers. But I mean, then you look at your running backs when you have Marshawn Lynch, Alex Collins, and Jay Ajayi all probably sitting on the bench most of the year, you're in good company because Melvin Gordon and David Johnson, in my personal rankings, are locks to finish as top 5 running backs this year. Not to mention you have Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson on quarterback. It's a very scary offense. Just to me, the only thing holding you back is that receiving core.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully Father Time does not catch up to Fitzgerald this year.
He's got who's his quarterback this year now?
Bradford and then
Bradford.
Once he gets hurt, Josh Rosen. Yep.
Right. So, Bradford could throw a spiral if his arm stays intact. Yeah. So, that's really what you got to worry about, I guess.
Yep.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I had you ranked 18th. So,
okay. Thanks, man.
Hey, I'm just, keeping it real.
There we go. We have you were ranked at least in our 2 polls on very different ends of the spectrum.
Right. All right. So we'll crack into the top 10 here. We'll do the bottom half of the top 10. Number 6, is Telford Tornadoes. They did get themselves one top ranked pick. They got one number one, a number three, really scattered all over the place. You got one, a three, two sixes, two eights, and then a 13 that probably hurt their chances of being in that top five. But Telford Tornadoes, number six. Seven, University of Boats and Hose. I have a feeling we'll be talking about them in a little bit because the way I have them ranked, I have them as a sleeper for the Big Six, but we'll talk about them here in a second. Got in there. They had they had a top three ranking on one poll, top five in there as well. Eight is Dynasty. I think going to be another surprise team. So watch out for them. Number 9, Delta Tau Chi, favorite college chapter. I never know if I pronounced that correctly, so he always corrects me, Drew will. And then the other Delta team, ranked number 10th, Delta Phi Gamma, who I also feel is going to have a breakout year this year. They had 3 top 5 picks and then 3 non-top 5 picks. So they barely edged into that top 10, probably based off of some of those top 5 picks, obviously. What do you guys have on these teams?
Yeah, to me, I'm all on the Delta Fu Gamma train. Like I put them at number 5 in my poll. I mean, I think there's another team that obviously is now in the top 5 in the coaches poll that we'll get to, but I think they're gonna take the ACC. Spoiler: I think they're gonna take the ACC this year. And I also think they're just because of who I have in my poll at the top of the list. I think they're a very strong candidate to make a TCAA bowl. Like I'm all in on them. That's where I stand on that team, at least. I don't know if you guys have any comments on that.
So for Delta Phi Gamma, I actually had them ranked 21st.
Whoa.
Ooh.
I kind of what we talked about, because they've also got Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota. They also have Garoppolo and Eli Manning. I don't, not 100% sold on their quarterbacks. They've got Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara.
And Dalvin Cook.
And, yeah. But then, behind them, there's not a whole lot. And then you've got Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins, and then
Allen Robinson and Jeffrey. I mean, those are two kind of question marks, but I think if those guys can produce, or at least maybe even one of them can produce, that could be a good spot for them.
So I just feel like, I don't know, I felt like they may, at least in that conference, I don't feel that they're strong enough.
And I mean, something that I liked about this roster is I'm a big Travis Kelce guy, so I mean he's a starter every week regardless. But I'm not as high as others are on Jimmy Graham, but I can see the appeal. I mean, and just judging by how his roster constructed is, when bye weeks get tough, Jimmy Graham could be a reasonable starter in that kind of flex role. And I mean, I just think, I don't know. I like the 1-2 punch at receiver and the 3-headed monster at running back. And looking at how kind of the conference stacks up, I was a big fan. I don't know why. Something just told me like this team has a very good opportunity to produce.
Yeah, I think when I look at their roster, I look at their bye weeks, and it is perfectly spread. Their quarterbacks, there's never one on the same bye. Their running backs, never one on the same bye, and it never really links up to any of their other positions that could hurt them. So it's just one of those teams when you just look at their roster. They did add Jimmy Graham, so they also have Travis Kelce. That could be a ridiculous 2-headed tight end tandem there. But then who do you not start? Do you only start one wide receiver? Do you only start one running back instead of having 2? I mean, I couldn't imagine not starting Kamara or Hunt.
Or even Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
I can't imagine putting 2 of those names on the bench.
Right. I mean, it's insane to think that you have to put one of them on the bench, honestly. They have that ridiculous, and really, I guess it really just depends on how Cook comes back from the injury. But, yeah, Delta Fu, sleeper when we get to the predictions here in my eyes.
Yep. And then the other,
How I had them ranked.
yeah. And well, for me, the other Delta school, I was on the opposite spectrum. I had them ranked 18th, so to me, it was kind of a shock to see them ranked in the top 10, at the 9th spot. But I can see the appeal. I wasn't a fan of the roster. And again,
Yeah.
that's just kind of how I was looking. And when I looked at compared to other teams, especially other teams in their conference, again in that Big Six, there's just so many teams that I could very well be wrong about this team because, like I said, I have so many of these teams grouped up right there together. But
Right. Yeah. With Delta Tau, um, they have a history where they will start so strong and then they hit conference play and they just don't handle conference play really well. I mean, I'm looking at their roster right now. In week 12, I'm not sure who they're facing, but that's the last week of the season. They have on the bye Todd Gurley and Kareem Hunt. That's not good if you need the win that week. Because then the rest of the running backs, I mean, can David Johnson come back? Maybe. We don't know. He's such a wild card now. He was the year prior's Heisman Trophy winner in the TCAA, and then out for the injury during week 1. So that's something to look at. You got Leonard Fournette, obviously. He can be a beast. What is Jacksonville going to do this year? Will they be as big? But the one thing with Delta is that they start really strong and they just don't. They can't handle conference play. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I don't know if it's always his bye weeks that just match up horribly, but never does well in conference play. Just don't know why.
Yeah, I had them ranked pretty high. I had them ranked 4th in mine, partially because of knowing how strong they typically are. They've got a fiery and emotional coach.
That is so true.
I don't know. Drew might be on my case after this.
If he listens, if he doesn't listen, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
He normally does the coaches poll, so he didn't do it this year.
Oh no.
But yeah, I think obviously there's some holes there. So maybe,
Yeah, and again, I think I kind of looked at the holes more than I did the positives. I do. That's just the word. If we can just time out. I mean, when Alex Collins is your 5th running back, that is just a ridiculously stacked running back core. But I also looking at it as that. I mean, you can only start 2 of those 5 names. To me, like those are 5 very good running backs, and maybe he doesn't start the right guy on a certain week, and that could be his downfall. But I do like the roster, and I could easily see this team after a strong week 1 or week 2 jumping up my polls big time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right? So that's all right. So he came in at 9. Then number 8 was Dynasty. The Dynasty, a fellow Big Six member. I had him ranked 15th in my poll. I had him as the 3rd ranked Big Six team, and similar to some of the other teams that are kind of in my poll, at least in that range. Nothing really kind of popped at me. It's a very solid roster, a very strong roster, but there was just nothing that screamed like this team has a big chance at a breakout year, at least in my eyes. I don't know if you guys want to comment on that.
Yeah, I had them coming in at 12th in my ranking, so a little bit higher than what I had them, but trying to see if I had them.
Well, if you kind of look at kind of how those rankings are, you have 3 straight Big Six teams all right one after each other. I think it's like 7, 8, 9, or 6, 7, 8, something like that.
But yeah, in my ranking, I also had, I assume I had Telford and Boats and Hose ranked higher than Dynasty.
Yes, that is how my rankings have them as well. Telford and Boats and Hose are ranked higher than Dynasty, so to me, it's kind of a shocker that they ended up being the highest rated team in the conference. But I mean, that's where I was at. And of course, well, talking about it, number 7 was Boats and Hose.
Yeah. So I mean,
and 6 was Telford. So I mean, we could just talk about the Big Six real quick here.
Oh.
Like we were talking about it off air, and I mean, I'm easily as of right now the worst team in the Big Six. But I just feel like I have a shot because our division is just kind of our conference is just it's so grouped together. Like there's that again. We had 6, 7, 8, and then you look if we look at the polls, like the other three teams are, respectable, and it's just going to be a very open conference. I think out of all the conferences, this is going to be the conference that eats each other the most. So I think the conference championship game might have a 2-3 team in there, a 2-3 with the conference record in there. Like it could be that crazy. I just think the Big Six is going to be the Wild West this year when it comes to conference play.
Agreed. I'll definitely talk about Big East when it comes to, like I said, off air. I had a comment about, when it came to predictions and stuff like that. And my note that I put next to them was just straight, good God, because of you guys are just, the teams are so perfectly parodied and stacked all at the exact same time. There's a couple teams I just don't know. All it takes is just that 1 week. And you all have quarterbacks. You all have running backs. You'll have wide receivers. It's just, will they all mesh at the same time? And it's just like, it could be the perfect storm of a conference. And, we'll talk, definitely a lot about them probably when we do our predictions here in just a bit.
All right, so let's get into this top five. Are we going to go all at once, or we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
I think we'll just build it upward. So let's start number 5, Greenville Green Devils. They are always strong in the Pac-6. They had multiple top 3 picks in this one. Only one pick out of the top 10, which probably cost them a couple points here. But it is preseason. It is kind of an eye test almost. You're looking at rosters. But Greenville is always up there in the top. Except for last year, Samurai Jackson, who's ranked 4, which we'll talk about here in a second, came into the league last year and kind of took over the Pac-6 right up until conference time. But they were a surprise team last year, and you're not going to be shocked with the way some of these top 5 teams are when you hear of how they all finished last year. But Greenville Green Devils always expect something from them. They get David Johnson back from injury. And just because I know the way Ryan operates when he comes to his teams and stuff, he always finds a way to maximize the effort out of any of the players. It's just the way he operates. He's got Aaron Rodgers now as a freshman, so you pair that up with Deshaun Watson whenever you want to. You're probably never going to not start. Yeah, you're probably never going to not start Rodgers. I can't, except for the only time you don't start him is in week 7 because of the bye. That's the only time you probably don't start him. Running backs: Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, David Johnson. Pick 2. Wide receivers: Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill. I mean, this could be maybe his little, his receiving core, and the tight ends right now might be his weak link.
But even then, there are some very interesting options. Like you look at the tight end position, I think Greg Olsen is a top 5 fantasy tight end this year. And even if not, there's guys like Cameron Brate, who's a touchdown machine. Charles Clay, who's just going to get all the targets in Buffalo. Jordan Reed, who, I mean, if you believe in him, I don't. But I mean, he could put up some good. He could put up some good numbers for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, when he's not injured, he's a beast.
Yeah, I mean, even you look at the wide receiver core. You could say if you don't like Mike Evans, you can say Keenan Allen's the real only star there. But I mean, I think T.Y. Hilton's gonna have a bounce back year. I'm a big Tyreek Evans guy, or Tyreek Hill, excuse me. Mike Evans is also a very good player, and he also has Corey Davis, who's another kind of upside player. So it's a very scary group. That offense, it's on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, well, there's a lot of star power there as well.
Yeah, the only thing on the defense, obviously, is Tremaine Johnson is a good cornerback, but that's his only cornerback. So you get bit by the injury bug, or maybe he doesn't play very well.
Repeat his gap. I think that's the I had Greenville as my number 2 team because again, the way I rated it, cornerbacks didn't kind of factor in as much. So because they're behind defensive tackle, the least scoring position, except on average wise. So I kind of factored that in, but that is definitely could be an issue. I mean, if Tremaine Johnson doesn't kind of perform like how he did last season, or he does get hurt, they'll have to wait until walk-ons to get another guy, and then he'll probably have a bye week too.
Well, I think
with that lineup, I just don't think. I don't think cornerback production matters. I think his biggest issue will be figuring out who to start each week.
They do have a cornerback redshirted that they could call up if needed, but still, you know, I would, you know, I would struggle like really knowing how many games, you know, are decided by a few points. But I mean, we've got some pretty close games. So I mean, if you don't have somebody that you can fill the spot for each week, then that could be a concern. But I had Greenville sixth. I mean, I I don't ever want to face them when I play them because of that offense.
And yet,
I mean,
and yet you signed a contract to face them for for 2 years.
Well, I mean, if I beat them, you know, it's going to look good. So you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Hey, I mean, I signed a rivalry contract. Maybe for personal reasons. One, he's my brother-in-law, but two, it's a pretty sweet sword that I made for us to hold. Although somehow it's still at my house because his wife won't let him have it over at his house, even though he won the rivalry game last week. It just sits on my mantle. But I store it for him because that's just the kind of loser I am. But Greenville, they'll be there. They'll be at the top. Pac-6. Say what you want. They're a split conference in my eyes. You have 3 teams that will just destroy you, and you have
don't
3
want to
teams
see that team on your schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I faced the top 3 teams this year, and I think that's why my strength of schedule is so ridiculous. 'Cause I'm pretty sure I faced Land Thieves, Samurai Jackson, and Greenville, and who are all surprise. You haven't heard their names yet. Because somewhere in the top 5.
Exactly.
So, we'll get to those guys in a second. We can just start, talking so good about the Pac-6 because they love the talk that they get, by the way. When in their conference chat, they are just so high and mighty on themselves. It's fantastic to read.
Yeah, I mean, well, we kind of talked about it. So at number 4 in the poll, Samurai Jackson U. Again, from the Pac, this is team number 2 of 3 that are in the top 5 from the Pac-6. And I mean, I had this team ranked number 3 in my poll. So I mean, yeah, I don't want to face any of these Pac-6 teams. And I mean, we can go through his roster, and it's just scary top to bottom.
I mean, quarterback-wise, you got Tom Brady, who, for whatever reason, just doesn't age. I'm telling you, avocado ice cream has got to be something, and I want to know what Guerrero is doing because I want to get in on that. I don't know what it is, but I just want to get in. Running back-wise, Le'Veon Bell who knows what's going on with him? But let's say he doesn't need Le'Veon Bell. He's got Alvin Kamara if he has another crazy season. Jeremy Hill now with New England, so you know how Belichick is with his running backs. You never know what's going to happen there. Wide receiver wise, Sammy Watkins, hit or miss. Michael Thomas, who's probably the star of New Orleans. So
Devontae Adams, who's a senior for him. I mean, he's going to be put up I think he's going to have a monster season because I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to go on a tear, and I think he's going to be the big beneficiary. And I mean, Stephon Diggs and Golden Tate are there on his roster as well, who are just, again, very solid, consistent producers.
Yeah, and then Diggs actually has a quarterback to throw to him now in the name of Kirk Cousins. So
don't disrespect Case Keenum like that. He's a very average quarterback who gets the job done.
I said what I said.
I mean, but another thing that's very interesting, you look at their defensive side of the ball, they really, besides that linebacker position, they have a top option at every position. Grady Jarrett, though not sexy, was one of the highest scoring defensive tackles last season. Melvin Gordon and Jason Pierre-Paul were, I think, only like one of 7 defensive ends to hit the triple-digit threshold. So, I mean, and you could even peg, if you like Vic Beasley, he could have a potential bounce-back season this year. Again, their linebacking core is pretty weak, but, I mean, their cornerback room is with Janoris Jenkins, Marshawn Lattimore, and Tre'Davious White. Very talented NFL corners, and last year, at least, translated on fantasy. We'll see what happens this year. I think Tre'Davious White doesn't get targeted as much because teams realize he's good. But I think Janoris Jenkins, with everything that's kind of happened with him this offseason, people might not think he's in shape, and he might get a couple more looks his way. And he's a very good defensive back, so he can turn some interceptions into touchdowns very easily. And then, I mean, you look at his safeties, and in my opinion, that's 3 of the top 5 safeties in fantasy football with Landon Collins, Rashad Jones, and Harrison Smith. So, I mean, he's locked in.
Two of them are freshmen.
Yeah, he's locked in at that position for a very long time.
Yeah, I had Samurai Jackson at 7th, so I had, top 10. Also, they did very, very well last year, to kind of dethrone some like Greenville, who had been a mainstay, and definitely a surprise, but definitely has some strength that you guys hit on very well. So,
all right, so we'll get into the top 3 here, representing the SEC. Those SC LSU Mud Dogs. Like I said last year, if they didn't stumble in their conference, or at least in their division, they probably could have won. I would say. I think they would have had a chance to have won the entire league last year because they were just that powerful. I feel like they went on like a massive winning streak throughout the entire, in the beginning of the season, and you couldn't stop them. But so, until we get to the number 2 team, we'll talk about them and their winning streak. But SCLSU Mud Dogs, they pretty much have ruled the SEC. I'm pretty sure since from the beginning. And they've got one title already, and I'm sure they would love a second one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their roster, we can go again by position. Bell, Zeke, and Hunts. I mean, even if, like we said, Bell holds out, you still have Ezekiel Elliott and Kareem Hunt. Plus, Bell's still a freshman, so that's scary. But the wide receiving core, some upside with Corey Davis and Will Fuller and Juju Smith-Schuster, but guys who have some upside but have also kind of proven themselves. Mike Evans and Stephon Diggs are kind of the big guys at that group, and even then, that might be his biggest weakness, which is crazy to say, his wide receiving group. I mean, the fact that he has Rob Gronkowski as a senior and then Njoku as a freshman kind of to take his place in the following years, I mean, that's terrifying. Again, with his defense, he's got top options at every position. It's a very, very nice, well, maybe except safety, but it's a very, very balanced and deep roster overall. I think that's kind of why I had him ranked so high. I had him 4th in my poll. So not quite 3, but again, because of that Pac 6. But I mean, he was in my rankings. He was the highest non-Pac 6 team. I just think this team has a very good shot to make the playoffs this year. I think they're going to run through the SEC. Sorry, Doc.
I actually had them ranked 10th.
Ooh.
I can't give too much love to them, but no, I don't. Just looking at some of the other top tier teams, I just don't feel that they have the full star power all the way throughout. There is a couple areas that, might cause them to stumble. Maybe not so much in the SEC, but looking at, some of these other top tier teams that we've already talked about, I just feel like, and I mean, I like Matt Ryan, but he had a little bit of a down year from his crazy year the year before. But I mean, he's consistent.
Yeah,
hard to know what Garoppolo is going to do, and then so quarterback's a little bit of a concern to me.
Yeah, again, the receiving group, to me, there's not a true superstar there. There's a lot of very talented receivers who could all make very big pushes to be top 12 wide receivers. I think 3 or even all 4 of those guys, his kind of top 4, have a case to be considered in that group. But I think you're right. I think that quarterback room is what probably scares me the most on this team. I mean, Matt Ryan, again, is probably the image of consistency. I think the Matt Ryan we'll see this year will be somewhere in between his MVP season and what happened last year. So I think he'll be a top 12 quarterback. I think he'll be a good option. I'm not as high as a lot of people are on Garoppolo, though I still think he could be a serviceable bye-week filler. And then, of course, he has the legend Blake Bortles on his roster. So what could really go wrong? Unfortunately for him, Bortles is a senior.
So, yeah, I didn't talk about it before when we talked about Quack Attack, because on On this sheet, it's showing them ranked 21st.
Right.
I actually had them ranked 5th, so I have them as the highest SEC team in my ranking. So
Sounds like a spoiler alert coming up soon
just kind of
in your
a throw
predictions.
out.
Yeah. Well,
I just, and look, comparing like Quack Attack and Mud Dogs, I just feel like Quack Attack has the stronger roster, and Quack Attack was definitely a surprise last year to come out of the SEC.
Agreed, they were for sure.
all right.
All
Well,
right.
time for
Might as
number
well
2.
go to that next. Number 2. No surprise, really, when you think of the 1-2 teams because we haven't named them yet. But number 2, Terry Tate's Pain Train. Honestly, they probably really should have won last year. They were an unstoppable force. They were ranked number 1, I think, 8 out of the weeks of the league during the polls. They just they went up against who's ranked number 1 in the in the national championship game. That's what happened, and they were just ridiculous last year. They were just putting up points like there was no other. I mean, the roster's ridiculous. I'm sure we're all going to talk about them here in a little bit when we do our preseason predictions. But let's just look at their roster here real quick, and we can just gush over them. Aaron Rodgers is a freshman quarterback. Really? That's just disgusting. They were so good last year. What do they do during the rookie draft? But they threw 1,000 points on the number 1 pick. Nobody else does. Who do they get? Saquon Barkley. On top of the fact that they have Leonard Fournette and they have David Johnson returning back from injury. Wide receivers, Odell Beckham, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Julio Jones.
Don't forget about T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton. I know you're big on him. I was gonna let you. I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Yes, I'm all in on the T.Y. Hilton Andrew Luck combination this year.
Tight end. Tight end. They have Gronk. They don't have many seniors, so they're really young. They could be the next. Going on a nice run here, but and their defense isn't all that bad either. So. It's going to be something. They do need to pick up another defensive tackle by week 6, so they don't have to, unless that's a home game and they get that home field advantage of 3 points, and I think that's all they need. But I mean, Adoree Jackson, Eric Kendricks, Calais Campbell, who they just picked up, by the way, in the walk-ons that we just had. So they're well-rounded again, ranked number 2. So
yeah. To me, a big thing for me was his depth defensive. I had him ranked 5th. Again, still top 5, but not quite number 2. For me, it was the depth at defensive end. A lot of people think this is going to be Anta's big year with Matt Patricia. I'm not on that train, but now adding Calais Campbell as probably the week in and week out starter definitely changes things. I don't think Sheldon Rankins is necessarily a good defensive tackle, and then the fact that he has nobody there is kind of a little issue for me. I think Eric Kendricks and Miles Jacks are just tier 2 linebackers, kind of outside that elite group of guys. So, I mean, they can both put up some numbers. Obviously, I think Adoree Jackson is going to regress because 171 points from a cornerback is just ridiculous. But, I mean, I like Tyrann Mathieu and Jaleel Day, even though both guys are kind of transitioning towards true free safety roles this year. So we'll see how that works out for them fantasy-wise. So yeah, that's kind of was my issue with this team and why I didn't have them like higher than maybe a lot of other people did, was that just the lack of defensive depth, and that especially how like that safety position could not be as good as it looks on paper because of the new scheme changes for those teams. But I mean, we look at that offense and I mean, it's just not fair. It's not fair to anybody. The fact that even though Rob Gronkowski is a senior, he has Evan Ingram waiting in the wings as a sophomore. It's just not fair. And again, looking at his receiving core, out of all those wide receivers we named, only Odell and Mike Evans are seniors. So I mean, and in the running back group, nobody of note is a senior. So I mean, this core is not only good, but that offense core has at least another year or 2 to compete at a high level.
Yeah, I had them right at number 2.
I had them at 7. Oops. Yeah.
So a little bit of that, with some respect on how dominating they were last year. I mean,
I think a part of it for me though was that I wasn't able to I didn't witness that domination live. I kind of scrolled back and looked at it, but
yeah.
I think again looking at this roster, I wouldn't be surprised if this team, well, I'll get into it later, but this is a very good roster. We'll get into it once we get into our predictions.
All right, so without further ado, the only team we didn't mention, the defending reigning champs, have won it twice. Land Thieves of the Pac-6, ranked number 1, almost unanimously. If I remember correctly, they had 1, 2, 3. They had 5 of 7 number 1 picks, and then 2 6 picks. So I'm not sure where it happened there, but might as well just call it unanimous as a number 1 team. They're the defending champions. Their history, their pedigree, their anything agree is just ridiculous. Their roster's ridiculous. We're gonna hear about them all year. So we might as well talk about them all year right now. So if you guys got anything on number 1 Land Thieves, like I said, quarterback wise, you got Carson Wentz. He's not returned yet, but you got Matthew Stafford just sitting there. Running backs is Todd Gurley. Wide receivers, you got Fitzgerald, Edelman when he returns from suspension from whatever he didn't do. It's ridiculous. He always gets everything he can out of his teams, and I think they're just going to be beasts again this year.
Yeah, I think this Land Thieves roster again. There might be talent wise some teams that you might say are probably better than Land Thieves, but you just have to look at the pedigree. I mean, the fact that they've been in the championship game 3 out of 4 years, won 2 titles. It shows that not only do they have the talent, but the coach, Mr. Ryan Downs, finds a way to get the right guys in when he needs to. And again, we can gush over this roster. And what do I do as a newcomer into this league, taking over, voted by the coaches poll, the second worst team in the league? I signed my rivalry agreement with them. It's just kind of you got to go for the jugular, baby. Definitely not looking forward to the Week 7 showdown because I have a feeling that he's going to win and name my team something I really don't want it to be. But it's just I'm excited, and I'm scared that I have to face this team now every season. But I just feel like once I do upset him, it'll be big news. That'll be all we talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that I would add, looking at some of his red shirts, he's got Matt Ryan and Andrew Luck redshirted this year. So, I mean,
yeah, and I'm looking at it too. Like,
there's some talent.
Tremaine Edmonds, I think, could be a very good fantasy linebacker for years to come, and he's on a red shirt. Same thing with Roquan Smith. Adam Thielen is a very good receiver who's redshirted. Kerryon Johnson, a rookie running back who might not put up numbers this year, but certainly the Lions invested in him being the running back of the future. So the fact that he's going to get 4 years after this rookie season after him is going to be something scary.
Yeah. And, I mean, for me, I ranked them 1, but if I was strictly looking at the roster, there might be a couple teams that just looking at that I might really rank a little bit higher. But for me, they're the reigning champs. You got to show them some respect. So
yeah, it's the pedigree. I mean, we can look at like in the real NCAA, there might have been times right now during this Alabama dynasty where they might not have had the most talented roster in the country, but you're not going to bet against that coach and that history and that prestige of that team. Yeah. So that's why they were number 1 on my list. I mean, again, it's not like the roster is anything slouch, but there probably are a couple better rosters out there, but they just always find a way to be at the top of the standings, and there's no way I'm going to start going against them now unless it's Week 7.
Man, you got to beat the man, right?
Yes, sir. So we'll see what happens Week 7. I'm very interested to see the scoring differential. But before we get into the projections real quick, something I had pulled up on this other screen that I wanted to look at is that now that we have the rankings, we know where teams are ranked. Now we can look at some of these matchups that are taking place Week 1 and just how big of an impact they're going to have on the rankings. I mean, we have the 1 and 2 teams going against each other week 1. Like that's going to be huge. How far does one of those teams fall when they lose? I mean, it's going to be it's going to be a mayhem week 1. From what I've already seen, because I know you're starting to input the rankings, I see the 3 and the 6 going against each other, which should be a crazy matchup. I mean, I don't know. I'm just excited for week 1.
Yeah. Yeah, week 1, you've got obviously the game of the week is going to be. Real quick, let me point this out because I don't think everybody takes full advantage of this, and I love doing this stuff for this part when it comes to these games of the week. But you can name your field, you can name whatever you want, and that. And when I do these games of the weeks and I announce the game, playing with those names that people are saying on here. So like Terry Tate is going to try to get revenge against Land Thieves. It's going to be huge. 2 versus 1 is going to be there.
This is the big college game day. Yeah. This is what college game day dreams about, having a 1 and 2 team during the season. Honestly, the way I'm thinking about it, this is Alabama versus LSU in 2011. I want to say that was the year where they were 1 and 2 and they went to LSU.
You did 1 and 2. But so you have them. Then you have 3 and 9 facing each other. Another big game there with M versus Delta Tau Chi. Even teams that aren't ranked facing each other, they're going to be big games. Telford versus Tedzilla. That's a huge game still. Thugs versus No Sankey, another huge game. Boson Hose versus Vestal, Dynasty versus MC State. When I look at this, Greenville versus Ball So Hard, there's a rivalry there. It's almost teacher versus student. Ex boss versus ex worker, co-worker. Like they used to work together. So there's gonna be so much trash talk just this 1 week alone that I think it's gonna be fun. I like it. I can't wait. Is it Thursday yet?
I don't know if you mentioned this one or not. Samurai Jackson U and Quack Attack.
Yeah, that's one half circle. But I think obviously we know what the big game of the week is: Terry Tate versus Land Thieves. But the second biggest game has to be the South Texas Raiders going on the road to start the year against the Red Beard Conquerors. I mean, big time matchup. I think everybody's just sleeping on that game. Big time matchup. Let's see.
You want to get game day there, so I mean, that's the plan.
Nothing screams game day like the 29 versus the 26. It's going to be a monumental game.
Might even be a slobber knocker.
Yeah, I think the headline will read Terry Tate versus Land Thieves, but the second thing that all the news will bring up is what a great game. I'm on the road, so I can't say at my stadium, unfortunately, because as you said, I did take advantage and I did name my stadium.
Yeah, if everyone hits names their stadium, it's more fun for me when I announce who the game of the week is, because I like to have a play on words. Like Tedzilla, theirs is the danger zone. So obviously, you throw a little Top Gun swerve into all of the times whenever they're hosting a game, but they're in the games of the week. People just makes it fun for me. Telford Tornadoes. There's F5, which is kind of a double play, obviously on Tornadoes, but also he's a huge Brock Lesnar fan. You want to talk wrestling? Ask Marty about Brock Lesnar. Definitely ask him about Kevin Owens. I'm going to tell you all right now, Kevin Owens' favorite wrestler.
Kevin Owens is the high.
People speak so highly about Kevin Owens, and I don't want to get into wrestling here. Throwing this out there.
We could do another
Marty Murr.
We could do another Google Hangout just about wrestling. Yeah, but
we actually do have another band chat all about wrestling. So just throw it out there.
I want in on that. We'll talk about this after, but right. I think it's time to get into our predictions, and then we'll close this out. We've been going for a while.
So I'll give the predictions of who couldn't make the show today, who are in the coaches poll. So the Delta, their coach, here's their predictions. So they have an ACC Terry Tate's Pain Train winning that conference. No surprise. I'm sure a lot of us are going to have that. Big Six, he has Telford Tornadoes. Big East, I find this to be somewhat, kind of shocking in my eyes, but Arcanum U in there for the Big East. I feel like it's like a huge sleeper pick in my eyes. Pac-6, he has Sam Jackson University. That's not a complete shocker. And then SEC, SCLSU Mud Dogs. Not a complete shocker. So I mean, really, out of all those, I feel like the Big East is the big shock that he has as a prediction. For his,
I would agree because I have the RKMU. I have them ranked 27th in my poll. That would be a huge.
Yeah, I have them ranked 16th, so not as low, but that's still huge. I mean, I don't know. That's a very very surprising pick. It'll be interesting to see, but you gotta go for the edge.
Right. I won't give who he thinks will be, in the Final Four until we get to the Final Four part. I'm trying to see looking through all these picks that I got and trying to look back at the emails and the people who won't be here. But if you guys want to go over yours real quick while I pull up Ryan's, because I know his is in here somewhere.
So for mine, I agree with the first ACC, Terry Tate. Big Six, kind of a little bit of a sleeper surprise. I'm picking Boats and Hose. Little surprise there.
Like it. Top 10 team.
Yeah. But I mean, with the other strength in there, because you've got
Telford. Yeah, like we said,
and you've got Dynasty too,
all in the top 10. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Pac-6 went with Greenville. I feel like they're consistent. They've got a monster roster. Big East, I had Ball So Hard, and then SEC. Actually picked myself for that one. I didn't rank myself, but I did pick myself to be the champ this year.
I think you did that to yourself last year too.
Did I?
I have no idea. I just want to say it.
Say that worked out swimmingly for me.
Nice. All right. So for my predictions, I think something surprised. I went against Terry Tate's pain train for the ACC. I think Delta Phi Gamma. I think. Again, something just on that roster, I'm all in on them. I think they're going to win the ACC. I think they're going to be a surprise. They're going to surprise a lot of people. I know they were ranked as high as a lot of people thought. I ranked them higher than a lot of people. I had them 5th on my list, and they came in. Let me pull it up real quick. Where did they come in at overall? They came in at Delta. They came in at the number 10 ranked team. So I mean, I had them very high. I think they're going to make a big time move. So that was kind of my shocker pick. Everything else kind of follows suit. In the SEC, I got SC LSU Mud Dogs. I think it's going to be a close race between them and Doc Watson's traveling medicine show, but I think they're going to get the edge. They're going to edge it out in the end. In the Pac-6, again, I had Lanthys, Greenville, and Samurai Jackson all as my 1, 2, 3 in that order, and I'm not going against it. I think the Lanthys once again take the Pac-6 in the dominant fashion that they've shown. The Big East, again, sticking with the trend of how it's just so wide open. I picked a different team than those other two mentioned. I went with the Nova Southeastern Sharks. Like I said, when we were talking about Nova, wouldn't surprise me if this team won the conference like I've predicted, or they finished 4th. That Big East is chaos. And the last conference, the Big Six, of course, I had to pick the South Texas Raiders. No, I'm just kidding. I went with Telford. Telford, like I said, I kind of like the Big East. The Big Six is very close, and I just think Telford's going to be the one who's going to be left standing in the dust. Pun very much intended.
Ooh. All right, so I got Ryan's here from Greenville's. His predictions are he has in the ACC Terry Tate's Pain Train, Big Six Telford Tornadoes, Big East Ball So Hard, Pac-6 Land Thieves, and then in the SEC he has the SCLSU Mud Dogs. Kind of almost as you would say, maybe going chalk. Ball So Hard might be the only one. Like I said, the Big East is definitely that.
That wild card
conference that you just don't know who's going to make it out of there, and that will probably cost them when we discuss who's the Final Four. In my opinion, but so that's who he has there. For myself, I have in the ACC. I put a note on there that it's a race for second. I think Terry Tate's going to kind of run away with The ACC, I do have them facing Delta Fu Gamma in that conference title game. I think those will probably be the top two teams. I also agree. I like that Delta Fu train. I want to ride on that a little too. But, once you hit up against the pain train, that's what happens. You get derailed. So I do have, Terry Tate coming out of the ACC overall. A big six.
Don't worry, Luke. I got your back. I'm riding you. I'll pick you. I'll pick you to win the ACC over everybody else. Terry Tate.
For the Big Six, I said before, I put my note on there as just straight good God. I think it's going to be just a very, the black and blue conference, let's say, beating each other up. I do have a couple surprises, though, and this is why I have it this way. That's why I feel they're going to beat each other up here. I don't have Telford in that thing. I have Dynasty beating Boats and Hose in that conference title game. I feel Dynasty, you can ride Aaron Rodgers all you want, in my opinion. His running backs, we've discussed just how ridiculously stacked that team is. So that's my pick. I feel like Dynasty is finally going to live up to that name. They have the roster to do it. Big East, my conference. Obviously I'd like to say that my team's going to come out of that again. I don't think I have enough magic dust this year to pull anything out of my butt on this one. I just don't feel my team will be that strong, and also don't want to be the homer on it either. But my note I put for the Big East was just straight meh. Like, whoever comes out of it, I don't think it's going to get far anyway. But I do have Delta facing Nova and Delta coming out of the Big East. Pac-6 is just straight yikes. As you know, they have 3 of the top 5 ranked teams, so obviously why not? They're top heavy. We talked about their 3 top teams, and the other 3 teams are kind of near the bottom level of the rankings. You have 3 top 5s, and then you have 3 bottom 25s or something like that. So I have Greenville coming out of the Pac-6, defeating Samuel Jackson. I don't have Land Thieves coming out in that conference game, which didn't affect them last year because they still wiggled their way into the top 4, which, listen to that episode. I'll tell you, that was one heck of a dogfight getting Land Thieves into that top 4. SEC, SCLSU Mud Dogs will defeat Vestal in my eyes for the conference title. I called that one, my note on that is just parity. There's just so much parity in the SEC, but SCLSU I think is just going to reign supreme coming out of the SEC.
Yeah, when you look at the Pac-6 and you were talking about it, you have the 1, 4, and 5 teams in that conference, but then you also have the 24, 27, and 28. So it's a very one half. It's 2, and again, we'll talk more once we get into the playoffs. We haven't to make the playoffs, but it's a very, very top heavy conference. But also, those just because those bottom 3 teams aren't projected, to fight for a conference championship doesn't mean that they can't sneak into a bowl game.
Nope.
I mean, it's very possible because, like we said, we have 12 games on our schedule and only 5 of them are conference games. So they can very well pick up 4 out of conference, 4 or 5 out of conference, and all they need is just one conference win to kind of boost them in.
Agreed. All right, so who's ready for their Final Four?
I won't take the lead on this one.
All right, I'll read off the people who aren't here. Well, that makes it kind of easier. One team didn't give me their prediction, so unfortunately, one of the teams, so that's why you didn't hear from one of them. But we do have a Final Four prediction here coming out from the Delta Fu Gamma's president, owner, coach. He's got Telford as the number 1 seed, Pain Train as the number 2 seed, Sam Jackson as the number 3 seed, and Greenville as the number 4 seed. So he's got 2 Pac-6 teams making it to the end, getting into the Final Four. His prediction for the championship game, Telford Tornadoes defeating Samuel Jackson University. That's their prediction. Yeah,
Telford winning the championship game.
Yeah, that's what they've got there. So, very interesting. Once again, maybe Telford F5 Sam Jackson. I feel like there's a movie somewhere in there.
Yes.
But that's that. So then with Ryan from the Greenville, his Final Four prediction is Land Thieves, Ball So Hard, Telford Tornadoes, and Terry Tate.
Hard.
And then he has his champion as Land Thieves, picking up another title. I feel like, if they were to win another title, we might as well start renaming them Alabama, because that would be ridiculous. And really, just considering the way this league is structured, I think it'd be unreal, but not too shocked at the same time because of his roster. But it's just crazy the way things would work out there.
Yeah, and of course, him being a horrible, horrible Oklahoma Sooner fan, he'd want to be called the Sooners, not Alabama, because he just, for some reason, he's a Sooner fan. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, but Sooners don't win, so just throwing that out there.
Yes, Sooners do not win, but I can't say anything because my college team just lost to Maryland.
Wow, we brought that up, huh? Yeah, I thought we were going to mention that. I didn't want to mention it.
I didn't want to mention it, but I felt like Mr. Ryan would have just kind of said, yeah, but what happened against Maryland? So I'd take the punch myself.
All right, you guys want to go and then I'll go?
So I had my Final Four, Terry Tate's Pain Train, Greenville Green Devils, University of Boats and Hose, and a little bit of a surprise, Delta Tau.
Whoa, that is a bit of a surprise for me, at least.
Especially because I picked Ball so hard to be the Big East champion. So, but I feel like they've been so strong, and like David talked about, that when it gets to conference play time, that they kind of lay an egg or something. And I think they get over the hurdle this year. I've got Terry Tate winning, and I would say that they'll be facing off against Greenville. So Terry Tate, Greenville in the championship, and Terry Tate winning it this year.
Very interesting. All right, so with mine, no surprise for me. The number one seed for me is going to be the Land Thieves. I just think, it's the dynasty. It really is. Sorry to the dynasty, but Land Thieves just has that pedigree, they have that it factor, and it's just something that all teams. Number two, I had the SC Mud Dogs coming out of the SEC. I just think that team's really talented, and with me, besides Doc Watson and maybe Quack Attack, I really don't see too much tough competition in the SEC schedule. I didn't really study their out of conference schedule, but I mean, I just feel like that team's gonna make some big moves. Again, number three for me. Again, this is I'm all in Delta Fu Gamma. Not only do they beat Terry Tate's Pain Trade twice in the season, they're going to beat him in the regular season and in the ACC championship game, but they're going to earn the third seed into the playoffs. And I just think that roster can go the distance. And fourth, like I believe it was Luke, I have 2 Pac-6 teams in there, but I'm going to put the Greenville Devils in there. I just like how that roster is made up. I think it's going to be a very interesting. So that leaves a Pac-6 matchup in the semifinals, and I have Green Devils after they lose the Pac-6 championship to Land Thieves. They beat them when it matters most. They beat them in the semifinals of the playoffs, and they beat SCLSU, and SCLSU Mud Dogs comes out of the other side, and I have them as my champions. Even though I have them ranked 4th in the preseason polls, you have to give them a little bit of room to grow. But I think the Mud Dogs, I think they're a complete roster, and I think that's the team that's going to win. It might be a little shocker, but I just like how that roster is built, and it's very complete all around. And I think they can make some noise, especially down the stretch.
Well, I mean, they were the champs two years ago.
2 years ago, yep.
Yep. So, I mean, I just believe in that. I believe in that roster.
Yeah. Strong stuff. Here's what I have here. Here's what I got. Not so fast, as Lee Corso would say. My Final Four prediction, I have Greenville. I don't really have this in like a ranked 1 through 4 type of thing. I just did like some matchups here, kind of guess based on how I feel it would be. I have Greenville Green Devils coming out into the Final Four, going up against Dynasty. Really, like I said, Dynasty, I feel it just has that team this year. The other Final Four matchup, SCLSU Mud Dogs versus Terry Tate. Like I said, I don't feel whoever comes out of the Big East, I just don't think they're going to have enough to even make it into the Final Four. They'd have to be really a shock, honestly, for that to happen. But yeah, I don't see any conference getting 2 in there. I just don't think. I think there's going to be enough coming out of these other conferences that there's going to be one strong team out of each one, out of these other 4. So my championship matchup, I have a lot of scribbled out. If you saw my piece of paper here, I was all over the place. I first originally had Greenville beating Dynasty and taking on SCLSU. And then I was like, I looked at the rosters again. I said, no, it's not going to happen. I have Dynasty coming out instead, beating Gville, and I have Dynasty winning the whole thing. I think this is their year. I think they're going to live up to their name.
Wow.
They have the roster. It is stacked. It is loaded, and I think this is their year. I believe it's going to be their year, and I'm riding Dynasty all the way. Unless they face the Thugs, peace be with them. We'll take care of it. But other than that, Dynasty. That's who my prediction is for this year.
Wow, very interesting. Kind of like you said, for me, I think the Big East is just gonna kind of be a wild conference. I think they're gonna kind of same, and I think the same thing about the Big Six as well. I think both those two conferences are gonna eat at each other, and it's ultimately gonna cost maybe that top team. So, like in your case, the Dynasty, I think it might cost that team a playoff spot because I just think those three teams in the Pac-6, like I just think you can't leave two of them out. I think whether it be Sam, I didn't put Sam Jackson in my playoffs, but I could easily see them not only making it, but even winning the championship. That conference is just so strong that I don't see how two teams don't make it in there. And like I said, I just think, I picked Telford to win the Big Six conference, but I mean, I just think that Telford might win that conference and be 3-2 in conference play. I think those divisions just are going to eat at each other, and it's going to, like I said, I think it's going to cost, particularly the team that comes out of the Big Six. I think it's going to cost them a playoff spot, but time will tell.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. There's our predictions. Anybody have anything else they want to throw out there for predictions? They want to talk about?
I kind of mentioned it earlier. My pick, I didn't, put them in a conference bowl or, in the Final Four, but Redbeard Conquerors, I feel like they're going to be the most improved team overall. I think they obviously kind of suffered from, coaching issue last year.
Yeah, they've coaching issue the last couple of years, honestly.
Started, kind of phoning it in. So I think they've got they've got a decent foundation for their roster. So they've obviously got some room to grow. But I think they might, get a couple surprise wins. The only other prediction that I had was who I think is going to underachieve, and it was more so based on how they did last year, and that was No Sankey, because they were, I forget exactly where they were ranked last year at the end of the year, but I don't feel that they'll be able to follow it up this year.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I feel like No Sankey was always that top 10 team, hit the top 5, lose, but stay in the top 10, or even win and somehow still drop. They were never impressive to get high in the top 10, but they were always just enough to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly with No Sankey, and that's been their pedigree as well. But yeah, honestly, the way I have them picked in the ACC, I ranked them 26th to start the preseason.
Yeah. So I had them ranked 14th. So
I had them ranked 23 too. So I'm also kind of on the No Sankey not performing well trained as well. There's a lot of wells. But I mean, from me at least, I had a couple of teams that I think can make some big time noise, and I think one team that I think we're kind of looking over is that, again, I'm all in on Delta Fu. Like, I'm on the bandwagon train. Like, if I wasn't an owner of a team, that would be the team I root for. But I think with them in the ACC, and you also have Terry Tate's Pain Train, I think that's kind of consensus. The top two teams that are kind of fighting. I know Ted Zill is also in the mix, but I think MC State is being grossly overlooked. I think they're a team that I think they do have an outside shot at not only competing for an ACC title, but it wouldn't surprise me if they won it. But I think they're going to be a team that, even though they might not finish atop their conference standing, they might be able to sneak in a top 10 ranking at the end of the year. Like, I just think that team could make some noise. Another team that I have similarly to MC State is the Okay, let me try and not pronounce this right, but it's Vestal Tech Community College Rabbit Wenches. There we go. It's a very long name. There again, MC State was ranked 15th. Vestal Tech is ranked 14th. I think those teams are in very similar situations to where, we might have a couple of teams ahead of them in their conference, but they could really make noise and they could finish the year as some of the strongest teams. Think a team like Penn State last year. They were very, very talented, but there's just always that one or maybe even two teams in the conference that just slightly had a better win or one more win. I think those two teams can play in big balls this year.
Yeah, I would. I would not sleep on MC State. They won the ACC title game against Terry Tate last year.
Yeah,
and I signed a rivalry contract with them. Their new owner coming in to the league last year. So yeah, I got some faith in their coach. I think they
Yeah.
I would say ditto to that. Don't sleep on them.
No, I pulled up career records. Now this is the entire league history, from 2014 to last year, 2018, and you look at some of this and it's not that big of a shock. Actually, there's one team that's a shock. I can't believe I'm ranked that high, honestly. But, Land Thieves has been the best team overall in the league, 41-16. That's their record for the league. Boats and Hose, 37-18, Mud Dogs, 36-18, Thugs, don't ask, 37-20. I really don't know how I pulled any of that off.
It's
honestly.
early dominance.
It is. I think so. Especially when you start last year 0-6 and you only win 5 games. So honestly, I must have done much better the years prior. But just to throw this out there, just some of the new owners into this league, just to kind of tell you what you're working with. The worst recorded team is 14-36. Anybody have a guess?
It's the South Texas Raiders.
It's the South Texas Raiders.
Yeah. I didn't know it was the worst team, but now that I know, I'm literally, again, the coaches must love me because I didn't finish dead last in the polls.
That's right.
But now that I know that, I'm really I took over probably the worst roster overall and statistically in the existence of the league, the worst team. I think it's going to be fun trying to build this program not only to respectability, but hopefully one day to a national championship. So I'm excited.
And a couple other things. South Harmon Institute of Technology, they were the second worst team, 16-32. Rand University, Rand University, 17-33.
My third last team.
Now Ron Swanson is a very active team. They're 19-32. So you could see some similarities to those bottom 3 teams. Obviously, they were owners that just didn't participate. So you look at who's on the top. Land Thieves, University Boats and Hose is a new one, but that was Hillbilly Tar Heels, who were always a dominant team, and they did the same. They always had the same thing. Came out strong and then disappeared. And in fact, one year, I think last year, was ranked number 1 and literally did not set a lineup.
Yeah,
as ranked number 1. And
I played them, and they still beat me.
But we penalized them. So, we didn't think, the coaches poll didn't like that. And we're a fickle bunch, the coaches poll. We don't, you're ranked number 1 team, you set a lineup. So, but, Mud Dogs, Thugs, Greenville, Vestal, Terry Tate, Ted Zilla, Redbeard, that was Gondor U from previous seasons. So your top echelon teams have been the ones who have always been in the league, obviously, and handling business. The bottom team, MC State 21-29, Samurai 21-29. But if their records last year were any indication, they were a lot worse going into last year, and they've improved already in that realm. So it can be done for anybody who came into this league new. You have, trust me, I'll answer any question. Anybody in this league will almost ask any question. That's why I like the new band format. There's plenty of times I've seen someone ask a question, somebody else already answer the question before I even get to it, which is fantastic. So, other than that, I'm ready for this season. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited. Who's listening? Obviously you two definitely sound excited. So, you guys have anything else to add?
Real quick, I don't know who won the Heisman last year, and I don't know who's won in previous years, but I think the Heisman this year, it'll be his second time winning. I think David Johnson wins the Heisman. I think he said he wants to get 1,000, and you know what? I'm all in on David Johnson, even though I don't own him. I think he could realistically end up with 1,000. I think it's not remotely impossible at all. I like David Johnson to lead the league in scoring this year and just
Oh,
be the best player.
just because you asked, I'm going to give you a little history on the Heisman Trophy. So the first Heisman Trophy winner was Matt Forte. Right. Only 4 years ago, Matt Forte, Heisman Trophy winner.
Matt Forte was so underrated.
Yeah. And, surprise, surprise, guess what team he was on that year? Land Thieves. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The next year, Heisman Trophy winner, Odell Beckham. He was on Vestal Virgins. They were ranked third that year, ending the year. But Odell Beckham, rookie or Heisman Trophy winner. 2016, Heisman Trophy winner, number 2 Greenville Green Devils, David Johnson. So he has won the Heisman before. He can win it again because that's how we operate in this league.
He's going to be the first
last year.
Heisman winner. I'm calling it.
Last year was Alvin Kamara was the rookie of the year. Number 1 ranked Samurai Jackson U last year had them, and they faltered. I think in the conference title game, I think is what happened to them, and not making it any farther. So, and Land Thieves got in there and swept it away from them. So, if you really want to look, the League Awards gives you everything. It gives you all, how teams have done in their conferences, who's been coach of the year, which is based off of efficiency when it comes to, who they could have started compared to who they didn't start. We have best record in there. Terry Tate was the best record last year, 11-4. But the overall best record has been SCLSU Mud Dogs. The year they won 2 years ago, they were 12-3. Was their best record, and they just went on.
Ever been undefeated? Very interesting.
Yeah, no team's ever gone undefeated. The longest winning streak we've had is 7. Wins in a row. Or no, 8. Last year, Terry Tate. Yeah, that's what they went on a run. 8 wins in a row. Terry Tate went last year. So, and I believe that is the record, as well. Let me double check here real quick and see. Yeah, no, it's not the record. Who's the record? Where's the record?
Real quick, I was talking about David Johnson. Somebody who owns David Johnson, Mr. Doc Watson's Traveling Medicine Show, so pretty sure he's happy with that take.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Especially now that the rankings are in there and I'm looking at my schedule and I play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 10 teams. I play Terry Tate's Pain Train in week 2, Greenville Green Devils in week 3, Delta Fu Gamma in week 4, and Land Thieves in week 6. And then, of course, SCLSU Mud Dogs. So,
yeah, when I can tell you my schedule real quick. As the 29th ranked team, I have 6 top 10 ranked opponents. So this should be a very fun schedule. Week 3, I got number 4. Week 3, I got number 4, Samurai Jackson U. Week 5, I have Delta Fu Gamma, who, if I had to lose to anybody, again, I would want to lose to that team. I'm all in. Maybe I'm the one loss on their record. Who knows? And then week 7, I have Land Thieves in my rivalry game because I am just crazy. And then 3 ranked opponents in my conference. Starting with the Dynasty at 8, then Boats and Hose at 7, Telford at 6. And the interesting is, week 11 is against Boats and Hose, week 12 is against Telford. So I could potentially be closing the season against 2 ranked teams, maybe making an impact on the playoff poll, on the playoffs, even if I'm not in contention.
Yeah, real quick, I'll talk about my schedule. I'm looking at right now, strength of schedule based off of coaches' preseason poll, based off of last year's power ranking. I'm pretty sure I have the toughest schedule. But you look at it, you have 13.45. But you look at it, and I'm not facing that many ranked teams, which scares me then, because that means everybody else I'm facing is right there on the top 10. But I face Land Thieves week 3, then Telford week 4, then Greenville week 7. So a 1, a 6, and a 5, and then Delta Tao Chi week 11. They're ranked 9 currently, but I have on the Ball So Hard University. They can easily be a ranked team. Nova Southeastern Sharks can easily become a ranked team. Doc Watson could easily be a ranked team. Ted Zilla easily could be a ranked team. No Sankey could be easily a ranked team if they show up, although we're saying they're not going to do anything this year. So, it's going to be
Watch us
interesting.
all be wrong and Osinki wins it all.
That'd be hilarious. I think we picked them like 2 or 3 years ago because we thought they would be it. But anywho.
Well, I can tell you one last thing. I was the one that argued for Nosanki to be in the top 4 for the last year's Final Four.
Right.
I argued for them versus Land Thieves.
Yeah. Land Thieves didn't even play. I don't think they played in their conference. Did they play in the conference? They didn't even play in their conference game. But they were still ranked They lost like the last game in the conference, one of their last conference games, so they missed their conference title game. But they were still ranked number 2 overall or something like that.
I mean, they were like Alabama last year. They are the mirror image of Alabama. It's uncanny.
Yeah. They were ranked number 2 they were ranked number 2 by the coaches, number 1 in the power rankings, and the entire argument was, how do you leave a team that dominant out of the top 4? And even though they weren't in their conference, and it was basically they did what Alabama did. They got in without having to play in their conference title game and win it all. So, I mean, it is what it is right there.
Yep, and again, like I said, I think two conferences cannibalize each other, so there's room for a team who doesn't win a conference title to possibly get into the playoffs again this year. But we'll see how things shake out.
All right, we guys have anything else to add?
That's all I got.
Just excited for the season. Can't wait. Tomorrow, even though I hate the Eagles, I'm excited to watch football.
Yeah, watch me a little football. It'd be fun. I do thank both of you for joining me here tonight. It's been a long, hour and a half-ish, I guess, we've been doing this. So hopefully everyone enjoys and listens. I'm probably not going to edit it, so what you hear is what you're going to get. Since it's such a long thing and it's 12:30 in the morning, I gotta be at work in 6 hours. So I'm not editing this thing. You're gonna get it live in color. All the sounds you hear, no bells, no whistles. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you guys are happy who's ranked in the top 10. I'll put on tomorrow on the website all the rankings that I normally do, who's 1 through 30, so you actually see it, who got top 10 rankings. If you look at kind of how it was last year, I always like to put in the coaches poll who got top 10 votes, who's in, who's out. So if anybody's got anything else, we're going to get out of here tonight. All right. Catch y'all later. Thank you.
Later.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
See you. I'm tired. How did we just do that for this long? That's just